Hello, I'm Jonathan Bowman-Perks and welcome back to our Inspiring Leadership series and my favourite time of the week. I'm very lucky to be with Jorge Mendonça, and George has had a very successful career in the military and was somewhat of a role model for people as an inspiring leader, and has now gone on to the Grosvenor estate, where I'll get George to talk about the role he has, and he's doing very well in business. And so we're going to talk about the good, the bad and the ugly in inspiring leadership. So George, tell us a bit about yourself, a bit in the military and a bit out.
Yeah, so I left the army in 2007 as a colonel. My first job was with Network Rail, and I was the Crossrail program director, doing all the surface work there. Led a team of 330, delivering 2.5 billion of infrastructure work, and then was headhunted to come to Grosvenor as the operations director, which was doing the plumbing and the drains for the London estate. And then they asked me to run the London estate, which I did for about three and a half years. And just over a year ago, I was asked to join the board and run something called Grosvenor Developments, which is our strategic land business, delivering communities at scale in the south of England, trying to make them really fabulous places to live, work, visit, and other Grosvenor developments. So we're looking at building businesses which deliver lasting commercial and social benefit, and never separately, but always together. So in the past, you could choose to make money in one place and do something good over here. Now every project, every scheme has to deliver both, which is a great place to be. So I've got a relatively small team here, and really enjoying life in 6 years in the property industry.
Yeah, and I'm really interested in that combination of what you learnt in the military, particularly when you're on the higher command and staff course, so that sort of strategic level, and some good examples of leadership which sort of bringing those best practices from the military and you're now using in senior business level. And I'll just keep an eye on the time so that we...
Sure, yeah, so I don't rattle on too long. Well, the High Command Staff course was a sort of pinnacle course for people who are going to be incredibly senior in the military, and there are 11 Army officers on it and 8 Navy and 8 RAF and that sort of thing. And it was a very intense course over 3 months. Actually, if I just come out and sort of helicopter and look at the two things that I remember very clearly. One was how everyone on there's, no one's stupid. But when we went into an exercise, a big intensive exercise, and we were put into sort of teams, how one person who was reasonably charming, when in sort of normal day to day, absolutely turned his team off. I was in his team, and after an hour we all hated him. I mean, he literally transformed into a do this, do that, capable, bright people, willing to really work hard for him, being switched off by just his manner. And the thing for me was, regardless of intellect, regardless of experience, regardless of training, the importance of chemistry, and the behaviours that can be so toxic and so dangerous to great performance. I think that really stuck with me.
Stuck with you,
and the other thing, I suppose, which stuck out was another chap. We were all asked to deliver, to present our papers, our sort of research papers, and the instructions were very clear how to do that. And this very bright bloke just ignored the instructions and bored us all stupid for half an hour. Yeah. And just getting the simple things right, following instructions at one level sounds rather too military, but actually sticking to the basics is quite important.
Yeah.
And just being able to, more importantly, think about the effect you want to have. And the effect of going through your research paper was to generate a discussion. And if you drone on for half an hour, there's no discussion.
And people try this in business, they stick up PowerPoints and bore that, don't they?
My God, I mean, that is the problem. And I always remember one of my chaps I worked for said, if you set out to inform, you bore. If you set out to entertain, you inform.
Yeah.
And people should think about that when they present anything, really.
Yeah.
PowerPoint particularly. Yeah.
Do you tend to stick away from it and have a few notes or a handout or something? Is it?
I try not to use scripts.
Yeah.
I think if you lose 10% of what you planned to say, but deliver the other 90% in a way that's engaging,
Yeah.
you're going to have far more effect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, reflecting as you've asked me to do on the sort of 26 years in the army and whatever it is, 11, 12 years outside, is just how useful the leadership that you gain at Sandhurst and the experiences you then get thereafter can be. Because when I left the army, I very much tried to play down the fact that I'd been in the army, because I didn't want people to see me as some sort of retired colonel. And
you talked about your father and the guards officer.
Oh, my father was a ballet dancer, and he gave me no advice whatsoever, except on one occasion before I joined. He said, if you're going to join the army, don't be like the 35-year serving guards officer I've just employed, who's like a fish out of water. And I just remember that.
Was that because he loved structure and hierarchy and?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people in the army are too much in love with they're too comfortable being in that hierarchy, and you just have to not. You have people that see the world in a softer way, in a better way, in a more flexible way. You know, people that think about capability and don't think about hierarchy. Yeah, they do very well outside, I think.
Because some of the fine officers, and you're a classic example, do very well in business, don't they? Because there's a desperate need for good leadership in business, and it's often missing, I find.
Well, I think what my experience of being in Network Rail and here is that the basics of leadership, shouldn't be assumed, and the military is very lucky it can rely on basic leadership being there, being trained into people, and what we have to realise is that in promoting people because they're good at their job, is potentially a recipe to lose people in their teams. Yeah. Because I've realised, nobody leaves a company. They leave a leader. They leave their boss. So
you've seen this happen where a boss has been too much of a micromanager, haven't you?
Absolutely. I mean, I took that very much into account when I decided to come to Grosvenor. The experience of being controlled and not being allowed the sort of freedom of action, the empowerment to get on with my job, was a feature in making me unhappy. I mean, 6 months after I'd been in Grosvenor, one of my sons said to me, he's about 12, he said, where's grumpy daddy gone? So I suppose, but the importantness, I suppose, is if you want to attract and retain the best people, you've got to be not fun, but you've got to be great to work with. Yeah. You've got to give them the space. They've got to enjoy working with you. And of course, the army allows that up to a point. But there's an interesting thing about the army. The one difference I'd say about the army and being a civilian business is, in the army there might be occasions when the bullets are flying and you just tell people, do that and do it now. But that's never appropriate in business. Yeah. Just do it and do it now. Almost never appropriate. In all other respects, you want to encourage people, you want to give them space, you want to help them, coach them, get the best out of them. And if you take the view that 90% of people will do a brilliant job if you just let them, your job as a leader is to create the conditions where they're going to be at their best.
And we've just got in our final minute, really, just that you said you're using now in a board position in business some of the military concepts like the intelligence preparation of the battlefield and concentration of force and things like that. Are you finding some of those principles are still relevant very much to business?
I never use those terms, but what I've discovered is that when I started my career, my civilian career, trying to play down the fact that I've been in the army, actually I realised that the principles and the things that we do and the way that we do think about structure and how to get the best out of people, those military lessons are ever more evident and required.
Brilliant.
To make businesses be the best they can be.
George, thank you.